Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters kickoff match for week number 8, aka the final week for this season, as we're going to be having a champion of the region as well as a player that will be relegated from the bracket. So coming up next, we have lnguagehackr versus Empanizado with some pretty standard lineups and standard bans. Doesn't seem like there's any high-risk choices here coming out from this first match.
Yep, both players banning warriors, so no big shocks there. Some players have opted to ban the demon hunter, but I really feel like warriors and you want to go for in a lot of cases. Other than that, we have identical lineups: warlock, demon hunter, druid for both sides. So might run into some mirrors. Let's take a look at what lnguagehackr is bringing specifically. We just kind of talked about it a little bit, but like you mentioned, honestly, pretty standard stuff. I think the big question people might have is maybe is it better to bring hunter or rogue rather than spell druid? Both these players picking druid.
Yeah, and I think that, well, Druid makes a lot of sense for lnguagehackr. He's been bringing Druid since the very beginning of the Grandmasters program, which basically started right after the expansion.
Sure.
And, you know, it's been working out for him pretty well over the course of the few weeks. And then when other people stopped bringing Druid, lnguagehackr still brought it every now and then. So it makes sense that once more, he's very familiar with it. He's been slightly teching it every single time. And I think that it's a good choice to bring for this week, especially if you anticipate Quest Warlock.
I am your nightmare.
I think one of the interesting things is as we have a warlock mirror start, but one of the interesting things with the druids for these players specifically that we'll get into more later is that they're running different lists. And Empanizado actually bringing the Twin Tyrant in his as well as the Alex Straza. But anyway, we'll get to that in the future. Game number 1, lnguagehackr versus Empanizado, and we have Quest Warlock versus Quest Warlock. And this is one of the mirror matchups that Frodan, I'm still really trying to kind of wrap my brain around. What's your take on it right now? It's so new.
It just reminds me, it reminds me a lot of Freeze Mage Mirrors, which is essentially just draw as much as you can of your deck to prepare combo, and just make sure that you manage your hand space really well.
Yeah, I can see
that. If you're able to maximize those two factors, you'll be in a pretty decent spot.
Identical lists for both players in the series here, so a lot of it will come down to whoever can complete that quest first. So just life taps abounding right now. Or Empanizado and lnguagehackr.
Yeah.
And it's almost looking like a control warrior mirror from back in the day where it's just hero power, hero power, hero power for the first 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of these kinds of mirrors develop like that if they tend to be aligning in their strategy.
Right.
They want to hero power a lot. In Tempo Demon Hunter mirrors, they hero power a lot as well. So the general idea is that they want to just draw as much as they can here, which is why I compare it to Freeze Mage. I think that's a pretty apt comparison, given that a lot of the times people have historically just been playing combo deck mirrors draw heavy, draw centric. And you can see how important things like Sense Demons are, so that way you can just get the draw one card deeper than your opponent. And this might be a matchup where having the coin is a really big advantage because you get to draw one card deeper and get another chance to get plot twist, because I don't know if going first has as significant of an impact compared to an aggressive mirror where being able to take the initiative is a huge deal with how you choose to attack versus defend.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's just kind of the simple fact that whoever plays a card first is suddenly one card down to their opponent too, right? So you want to be the person sort of saving those resources in a slower mirror like this, where, like you mentioned, in a more aggressive one, you want your opponent to be responding to the early threats that you're playing. So it's going to be plot twist from Empanizado, and that's going to get him pretty far ahead in terms of drawing. There is one in the hand of lnguagehackr too, though.
Yeah, oh no, but he's drawing both of his big dragons.
Yeah.
And you don't really want it in your hand because you want to be able to tap into it so you can get it for free. So definitely not a happy moment here for Empanizado, despite the fact that he got his plot twist off first.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully he'll find another one so we can toss those back in the deck. But if you're not getting that free Malagos, that free Alex Straza late in the game, it's sometimes pretty tough to close things out when you get to those high mana turns.
Yeah, definitely.
So, lnguagehackr on the play decides to, get a draw out of the Questing Explorer, but also, perhaps just as importantly, put a little bit of threat on his opponent. See if he can draw a card out, or maybe do a little bit of damage.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing is that for Language Hacker here, he has to just make sure that if he does plot twist, that he's also has a play for the following turn.
Yeah.
And he does have the Abyssal Summoner already ready to go.
More
Excuse me, sorry. I choked on air.
That happens sometimes.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I like holding on to the plot twist in this specific instance because Empanizado is prioritizing the quest, and Language Hackers can prioritize tempo.
That seems to be the case.
The only downside of Language Hacker's play is that by playing Morg Artificer, he's essentially going to leave his Abyssal Summoner to be more open to things like the Nether Breath and the Mortal Coil that's in Empanizado's hand because it's going to take more damage.
Yep, exactly. So what's the play from Empanizado here? There's a couple things you can do. You don't really want to use a Nether Breath so early, but your Questing Explorer is going to be answered fairly easily as well. He's got 9 in hand, so a tap would mean he has to play something if he doesn't want to burn a card next turn.
That's right.
So many possibilities.
But Questing Explorer, it's, you're drawing one, but you're leaving it open for possibility for your opponent to Mortal Coil it. Does draw the Dark Skies. If he had that in hand before he played the Questing Explorer, it'd be a lot more appealing play, I suppose. But he's just going to go ahead and pass.
Yeah, and, it's one of those things where he doesn't want to have his hand too full, so he needs to keep it a little bit more open.
Right.
And cards like Dark Skies feels like premium removal, so if he could avoid doing it, he's going to try.
That's the idea. So Language Hacker now, you built yourself a little bit of board. You want to do some damage to your opponent, maybe. But he does have the trade into Mortal Coil play, so can translate minion damage into a card draw, finds a Nether Breath.
This might be the plot twist turn because, Empanizado hasn't played a minion, so he knows he's going to open himself to vulnerabilities if he's not careful.
Yeah.
So he goes ahead and replaces it, finds an Abyssal Summoner, which is really important.
Yeah. Abyssal Summoner going into turn 6. He also finds 2 Dark Skies, which is nice to just kind of have in hand. And he's got to be fairly close. Yeah, I think 16 out of 20 is what I saw for a second to finishing the quest.
Yes. Those look right.
So doing okay. No crazed Netherwing or anything like that, and there's a little bit too much on the board, including that Morg Artificer, to make Abyssal Scepter a really kind of tempting play this turn. Mm-hmm. He does have enough cards in hand to clear with Dark Skies, though. I think that's just a play.
It's hard to say. I think in his mind, if he does end up playing the Abyssal Summoner, it's going to be the exact same position that Language Hacker was in. That is going to make it super vulnerable.
Yeah, I was kind of advocating Dark Skies there because it would have cleared the board. Quest done for Language Hacker. But yeah, I wonder, because you would think he would have a way to handle this. At least if you make your opponent Nether Breath this, they don't really benefit from the healing side of it. So I suppose that feels a little bit better. That you're kind of quote-unquote wasting the healing.
Yeah, the healing, I mean, it can be a big thing, but it's often not a position where you're trying to gain a bunch of... Like, you're not trying to utilize the healing as your primary win condition. It's like a secondary effect that is really good if you need to extend the length of the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the silver lining here for Empanizado. When his huge demon gets immediately Nether Breath.
Right. That does make sense. At least, Language Hacker doesn't get that 8 healing later, but he already is at full life. He can go ahead and tap here and play Acidic Swamp Ooze if he has no other play. Finds a Keladon.
Okay. Free Keladon is decent. Not too helpful this turn in particular when Keladon is the strongest.
interesting.
And the health total, like you mentioned, is not quite as important in this matchup, since a lot of games come down to Alexstrasza into, burst from a Malagos play to finish the game anyway.
Right.
So what's going to be
Hacker, sorry to interrupt. Language Hacker keeping the Moarg Artificer on board does intrigue me, because it just makes Empanizado's removal options still easier, but I think he's interpreting that Empanizado did not play the Abyssal Summoner unless he had to. And so maybe he's making the read that Empanizado doesn't have removal in the hand when Empanizado very much does. He could just Rain of Fire Mortal Coil, but he does float 5 mana at that point, which he can't play Abyssal Summoner. So it's actually a fairly clever setup here by Language Hacker, saying if he does have like a very nice clean removal tools, he still can't develop big behind it.
Sure enough. And I suppose Empanizado can, is trying to look at that Abyssal Summoner last turn as possible, quote-unquote removal, because if your opponent trades their minions into it, instead of using cards in hand, then you don't have to use your cards in hand. And that's, probably the logic behind the second one here, is saying, all right, trade your minions into this so that I don't have to use cards to remove them. Oh, man, he draws the Alexstrasza, but not with the hero power.
Yeah, there's actually a couple different lines here that Language Hacker can take right now. The first is to set up tempo and then just use Alexstrasza when you have a board established. It's a very common thing for Highlander mages to do, which is just have 15 power on the board and then Alexstrasza and hit them for 15.
Right.
And he can try to build that line by playing Abyssal Summoner this turn, and then like Keladon, the 9/9, and just start to push damage. The issue with that is it's still like a turn away from Alexstrasza, so it's not guaranteed yet. So I do want to use this hero power every turn I can.
Mm-hmm.
He finds a Twisting Nether, which is honestly just as good, just because you don't really anticipate this board to live very much. When you start to get hit turn 8 onwards, you anticipate your opponent to be able to clear off every board you play.
Yeah, you think so. It is nice to have a pocket free 8 mana spell. And yeah, he's just gonna go ahead and play Keldon. All right. Quest completed for Empanizado, so now he is online with his draws as well, but still has that Malagos and Alexstrasza in his hand. I believe he's got another plot twist in his deck somewhere, so there's a chance of maybe getting them back in there to turn them into 0 mana minions in the future.
Yeah, he might have to as well.
I think so.
There's just too many important cards. Like Rain of Fire is all right. So Rain of Fire times 2 with Malagos is 12 damage, assuming you don't kill yourself in the process.
Yeah.
So like even discounting Nether Breath to 0 sometimes is totally fine, because you can have Malagos, Soulfire, Nether Breath, and you still like get there. Look at Empanizado dumping hand space here.
Gotta do it. Yep. You don't wanna risk burning anything that's vital for a kill. There's the Abyssal Summoner for Language Hacker now. He's got 2 in hand.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. It's gonna be another big taunt. And it's gonna require another, response from Empanizado. And like you mentioned, the goal might be to just try to build a board that, sticks for maybe 1 turn to make some sort of Alexstrasza play, but it is difficult. The Abyssal Summoners are kind of one of the only things that gives you a health total that maybe contests your opponent's removal at this point, as long as they don't have Twisting Nether.
Now, Language Hacker has really pushed Empanizado to show his hand. He's already given him several boards which he can play cards like Crazed Netherwing and Nether Breath and get really efficient trades and swing health, and he hasn't. So in Language Hacker's mind, there's no need to necessarily rush with the hero power, because if he did, say, land a really important minion he needs to hold, like Malagos for 0 mana, that's great, but he still needs that next draw. So in his mind, just playing this Abyssal Summoner is still threatening enough.
For sure.
Not to mention that he still has 8 damage from the hand in Nether Breath and Soulfire. So there might be a chance that Language Hacker could just draw lethal next turn if this board's not dealt with.
I mean, if he draws a free Malagos, I believe you're really close to that point. Don't know if that quite would be, but either way. All right, Dark Skies comes in.
Yeah, this is guaranteed clear.
Yep.
And then he drew the RNFC Broodmother, which is just pretty good development.
Yeah. The nice thing is that when it comes to dealing with taunts, you've always got this free twisting nether. It's thinking about using it right now.
Yeah, he needs to card dump so that he can hero power. He doesn't want to fall too far behind on reading the tome.
Sure. So, okay. So he still wanted to be able to tap and then play the Abyssal Summoner.
Yes. Yes, that is the key.
Right. Okay.
If I'm Empanizado, this Twisted Nether still looks pretty good to me. But first, of course, you want a hero power most likely.
Yeah.
Another alternative is if you want to play some of your other cards, you could Celadan because the 2/2 is not that threatening.
Yeah, you could Celadan the 9/9. I mean, you could even Netherbreath the 2/2 if you were really worried about it. I don't think Empanizado is, but it's a possibility. Free Swamp Ooze, yay!
Yeah, probably one of the weakest draws in Empanizado's deck.
You heard the enthusiasm in my voice. Swamp
It's
Ooze.
infectious.
Sometimes you can get excited about a Swamp Ooze draw, but not this time.
Yeah.
Come close.
All right, yeah, kill down the 9/9. And
Right.
put a little bit more pressure out on the board with the free Swamp Ooze. Yay!
So this is where things start to get really messy because if Empanizado has a card in his hand and he's not playing it for free, well, I guess he did show his Acidic Swamp Ooze played for free. The amount of cards that are held in hand that are discounted to 0 start to really intimidate you because you're worried about combo damage. Normally,
Right.
you're like, oh, I'm at 26, I should be safe. But you think, what if, he has Malygos plus 3 free spells? It's like, am I really that safe? And not really at that point.
Yeah, very true.
That
Interesting.
Netherwing draw is actually pretty decent because the thing is, Language Hacker also could tap into a Malygos at this point. He is 6 cards away and no Malygos in the hand.
Yeah.
I'd be very incentivized to try and hero power once more from Language Hacker and try and get that.
Let me go ahead and Rain of Fire to do a little bit of damage here.
Oh,
some
hate
cards.
to see it.
Oh no. Free coin,
Nice.
yay! Alright.
Yeah.
That's a less enthusiastic yay than the Swamp Ooze. Free.
It's awkward on both sides here, right? Now
Totally.
Empanizado draws the other Morag Artificers, so I think he's out of Demons to draw with Sense Theme. That's just a dead card now.
Yeah.
So
I think he's still got a plot twist though. Somewhere in his deck.
he does, but if he hero powers, he's actually not developing much besides the Aronasi Broodmother, and
Right.
he might realistically just want to hold that in the hand.
Possible. It is super awkward. Maybe is there a world where you Morg Netherbreath the 5/5? Just to get rid of it.
There might be. I still think that in the end you might just want to play the Broodmother because that's still the best play. But yeah, it is scary because if your opponent removes that 4/6 and pushes damage, you might end up just dying. So
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think that it's a bad play at all here. If Empanizado wants to go defensive here. It's more like because we're at that range of the game where like you almost can guarantee that your opponent's holding Malygos. Like probability does just favor that.
Right.
Likely it's in the hand and he's holding free cards. You just don't want to risk that. So even if you're at 20, it still doesn't feel safe.
The kill combo is almost certainly there. Zephyrus a draw for Language Hacker. And I mean, yeah, you're definitely not super pleased about gaining health because it's going to get taken away by Alexstrasza anyway. But does Zephyrus open up any sort of interesting lines here for Language Hacker?
What is interesting to me is that we actually haven't seen a game in a long time where coin's been available for this long, so it does give Language Hacker access to a little bit more mana off of Zephyrus in the future.
Yeah.
But for now, he's just going to hero power because he has a 1 in 4 chance to hit the Malygos. Hits a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which is also
Ooh,
good.
All right.
And immediately dump the coin for it.
I was going to say, yeah, it might not be bad to just kind of slam that now, see what you get, pull out probably your opponent's Twisting Nether.
Oh yeah, you're anticipating Twisting Nether, so if
Yeah.
I'm Language Hacker, I'll obviously extend onto the board to threaten, but don't overextend here.
Oh, all right. No Storm Moon,
No
Alexstrasza.
Storm Moon.
All right. Or Ysera, rather.
Yeah, Ysera will add a card to your hand, so you do have to play another one.
Right.
In this case, Monarch Artificer is the choice here, so that way he's not putting all of his biggest threats.
Yeah, why not? All right, Ysera gives you a... Oh, okay. Ysera awakens.
I mean, that's burst damage. So he's got 4 from the Soulfire, 1 from the Rain of Fire, 5 from the Ysera Awakens.
Yeah.
And 4 from the Nether Breath. So that's a lot of burst already in hand, plus Zephyrus.
I wonder.
What do you think about Twisting Nether plot twist just to try to put a couple of those dragons back in your deck? Because you don't really have a kill right now because you don't have a discounted Malygos or Alexstrasza, so it might not seem ideal, but is that maybe one of his only outs? He's going to tap instead. Okay.
Oh,
Free
my God. But he doesn't have... He has duplicates in his deck.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Wow, it's so crazy. He's only got 5 cards remaining. What could that be?
I don't think he's played a single Crazed Netherwing.
I think that must be it. I think you're right. Oh,
Language Hacker has so much burst from hand, he could legitimately just Alexstrasza his opponent right now. And he could just Ysera Awakens, Nether Breath, Soulfire, Rain of Fire, and if he needs to, Zephyrus for like Eviscerate or Lava Burst, if I just count my mana. Or yeah, so he could just go ahead and just play all that and have like 19-20 burst on the following turn. And I think Language Hacker is really trying to convince himself that might be it, because right now he also has a 50-50 on the Malygos if he chooses to just tap and gets it.
Right.
And he gets the Malygos. I think that might be lethal.
Possibly. Let's see. So if he plays Malygos, yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, so he's got the Nether Breath for a lot of damage, Rain of Fire as well. And then Ysera Unleashed.
Yep. Ysera Awakens. Deals 10 damage, and then Soulfire. It's very much lethal, and just see. Oh wow.
Man. Ooh, well, that was scary.
Yeah.
Sequencing. But,
well, he needed to, because I think if the Ysera Awakens went off, would he have enough damage after Malygos died to kill?
Good point. Yeah. All right. Either way, Language Hacker getting the win in the Warlock mirror, and those games get a little bit crazy towards the end, because you do have like we just saw some pretty huge, like kind of wild lethal combos with mostly based around Malygos. But props to Language Hacker for putting that together and getting a win in game number 1.
Yeah. I think you were right, though, in that if he had played just Ysera Awakens, he would have had the guaranteed lethal. So there was actually a moment where I think he accidentally set himself up to potentially let his opponent live.
My math could have been wrong, but I think he maybe could have done the other order.
Yeah. Because he would have done the 10 damage and killed his own Malygos, but his opponent would have still been left at like 3 life or something like that. Either way, Language Hacker was in a pretty dominant position, having that Malygos played for 0. And he's up 1-0 now in this series. An important one too, because I feel like Quest Warlock incidentally might be the deck that struggles to have gotten out, because Druid would have beaten it potentially. Demon Hunter has been good at pressuring the Quest Warlocks and getting the wins.
Yeah, that's huge. You do feel a lot safer if you get that win with Warlock. I feel like you can say that about Druid as well. But let's move on to game number 2. Empanizado sticking with Quest Warlock. Now he has to face the Demon Hunter, Tempo Demon Hunter of Language Hacker. I tweeted last night that Demon Hunter, like when it first came out, I played a lot of games with it and I really didn't like it, but I kept going with it. And now it's become one of my favorite classes. And it turns out the problem was that I'm just bad. But the more I've learned about this class, the more it's become fun, because I feel like it does really kind of make you think differently about your turns, especially in terms of, when you want to focus on card efficiency, when you want to, push for a more aggressive like board state and maybe, drop some cards you would normally drop otherwise. Ooh, that's a mulligan. Either way, Demon Hunter's a fun deck.
Yeah, that's This is a tough hand for Demon Hunter.
Yes, it is.
I ponied up. I actually have been avoiding playing a lot of Demon Hunter on ladder. I've only played a lot of it during practice sessions, but this season I was like, I'm just gonna play Demon Hunter and see like if it because people are saying like Demon Hunter's still OP and it's still like the best class in the game, etc.
Sure.
And I was like, well, yeah, of course, it seems really solid. So I decided to just play some Demon Hunter on ladder finally instead of practice. And I went on something stupid like an 18 out of 20 game win streak. And these kinds of hands with double skull actually ended up being the hand I wanted in a lot of Quest Warlock matchups. Not necessarily the second skull,
sure,
but the idea that you don't really matter about the early game damage doesn't really matter nearly as much as the ability to ramp up your damage and burst your opponent with big plays turn after turn.
All right, I can see that. We've talked in the past about how Demon Hunter really comes alive during the mid game anyway, and in kind of a similar way that Quest Warlock can set up a lot of big damage combo turns, Demon Hunter kind of excels at that as well. Where you save Kane for like a later turn, negate whatever taunts they have up, and push in for lethal. Yeah, it's interesting. I can see being happy about the Skull of Gul'dan. It still makes me feel weird seeing 2/6 mana cards in the early game like that, but I can see how it would work out in this matchup.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where I have started also adopting what we saw last week, which is throwing away sometimes one drops. Like I see a hand of like Blazing Battle Mage, Battle Fiend, and Beaming Sidekick, and I throw away 2 of those things. So I'm like, I have a turn 1 play. I'll just go ahead and try to fish for my actual power cards like Warglaves or the Adept and whatnot. And my win rate starts improving after I started doing that, which was a very interesting discovery that I
Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience in that I was watching a lot of better Demon Hunters play the game, and I was noticing that happening, and I'm like, when you think about it, one of the frustrations I felt when I was learning Demon Hunter is that I felt like I was just running out of steam way too fast in like every game, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, where is like my momentum going? And I think a lot of it was keeping a really super cheap hand, because you kind of get yourself in sort of a face hunter mentality, and then you just run out of cards way too fast. And the early Demon Hunter minions tend to be pretty easy to deal with, right? So yeah, I think a big part of it is being very selective about what 1-drops you keep in your opening hand, and definitely helped me too, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at this early game here, lnguagehackr is entirely planning around the mid game. He didn't even use his I-beam on the 2/3 to get free tempo and damage, because again, as you just saw, Warlock can heal it all back very quickly, and the swarm approach that Demon Hunters can often try to go for in the beginning of the game, which is just deal 2 damage here, another damage there, another hero power there, that doesn't work nearly as effectively on Warlock.
Yeah, that's very true. You need to set up those big combo turns because of all the healing that exists in the Quest Warlock deck. You can see him being hesitant even placing the Battle Fiend out, because it's just way too easy to clear right now. And I like this. You're doing 5 damage here. That's not insignificant. You're still kind of putting something out there that is going to force your opponent to respond. Obviously, it's only going to take a rain of fire, but still, and if we look at Empanizado's hand right now, he has the Dark Skies, but man, using it on a board like this just doesn't seem like an option. So it's a little bit of a tricky hand for Empanizado. A little bit of a tricky board state to deal with.
That's a hard hold here from lnguagehackr. It's not easy to show restraint in that situation, because you want to play the Battle Fiend, because then if your opponent doesn't answer it, you play Wargaze of Azzinoth.
Right.
They play any minion, you swing twice, go to the face, you dealt 3 damage and buffed your Battle Fiend by 3 attack. It's a lot of damage. But he's aware of, like you said, Dark Skies. He's aware of Coin Crazed Netherwing, which is often the play you're looking for on turn 4 when your opponent's on the coin. So if you're in Empanizado's position here, is it a Dark Skies? If you're not going to Dark Skies, are you going to play anything this turn?
It's tough. I mean, you're a little bit hesitant even tapping. I kind of like the Morg play just to put a 4 health minion on the board. This at least could clear a little bit in theory. We know that Language Hacker has a lot of ways to do that, and you kind of expect the Demon Hunter to have a lot of damage from hand to boost their attack and swinging into a 4 health minion rather than send their own minions into it. But we'll see what he goes for here. Do you think Warglaives is a play? It generally feels like it is on turn 5 for a Demon Hunter, especially where he's got a couple Skulls of Gul'dan to look forward to. But is there another option here?
Yeah, you generally don't want to just play Warglaives and equip, but you can totally just do it if you anticipate your opponent not having the Acidic Swamp Ooze. But
wow,
this Swamp Ooze does hurt. I mean, it's not something that you often see being kept, right? Like while it's great for the Swamp Ooze to hit anything, it's not 100%. It doesn't come out a lot of time because it's just a 1-up, right? So you can't always respect it.
Doesn't even worry about the Morag Artificer, and why would you? 1 damage is 1 damage. It doesn't matter if he's doubling something that is going to overkill his 1 health minions, I guess.
Right.
And just keep putting pressure on your opponent. You take the risk. There's only 1 Swamp Ooze in the desk most of the time, so you're like, all right, well, maybe he doesn't have it. But at least you've got these Skulls of Gul'dan to fall back on.
Right, exactly. And he needed to, he had a really good, optimistic pan out, too. If his opponent didn't deal with it and he got the Skull this turn, he got the clear minion, play Skull, potentially even develop.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can see Language Hacker wasn't even super upset about that because he knew the risk going.
Yeah. I don't think he's super worried about it. All right, Frozen Shadow Weaver, always good to see. And there's a 1-mana Cane. That could set up some very strong plays for Language Hacker later.
Yeah, it's just hard to evaluate Demon Hunter's damage when they start playing Skull of Gul'dan and holding cards.
Yeah.
You can obviously account for a wide range of possibilities. Is it just a bunch of burst metamorphosis, Glavebound Adept? But then the opposite end of it is is he just holding a bunch of cards for Altruist? And there's it's almost it almost feels like a no-win scenario where it's either way extending onto the board doesn't feel like it does enough because, like you said, Kane could stop your taunts from working effectively, or they can just burst you down with Altruist, or they just clear your board.
Just runs right past you, basically.
Yes.
So Empanizado, yeah, okay. Abyssal Summoner on curve. I think that's fine. It's an 8/8. He's like, all right, well, you've got half of the damage to kill it right there and your Shadow Weaver, but show me what else you have, Let's see some of those discounted cards, is what Empanizado is saying to Language Hacker right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if Language Hacker can get away with another Skull of Gul'dan here, and the reason why is because the Morag Artificer is still on board, so I-Beam's going to deal 6 damage to that 8/8.
True.
So he could just play Skull, and then he could play I-Beam.
Yep, it is kind of fortuitous that they're right next to each other in the hand, so you can get the outcast from both. That seems like the play. You don't burn any cards doing this. You don't burn any cards next turn, obviously, and that I-Beam helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, Twin Slice.
So he can use the Twin Slices and the Umberwing, and then use it to gain back 6 life, and so he can actually keep his 4/3 on board. This is clever.
Yeah, all right, I like this. A little bit of clearing himself. Removes a Morag Artificer. Ooh, and puts the Shadow Weaver just out of range of being traded into by the actual Abyssal Summoner.
Yeah, this is smart. He knows that Creating Netherwing's not in the hand because Empanizado would have played it by now, especially with so many 1/1s that stay on the board for 3-4 turns.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Right.
Yep. So an inactive Zephrys is a draw for Empanizado.
So many possibilities.
Yeah, Empanizado has Rain of Fire to help clean this up a little bit. His priority still is life tapping and trying to get his plot twist, but I wonder if instead he wants to tempo. So he could, for example, just play Rain of Fire, trade, and then the Aranasi Broodmother. Then on 8 mana next turn, he can play a Coin Alexstrasza, maybe even on his opponent if he's feeling really ambitious. But
yeah,
we could just play reactively.
I suppose you do need to get aggressive versus the Demon Hunter at some point. If you just play defensively purely in this matchup, it seems like Warlock will just eventually get sort of worn down. But
I totally agree with that.
yeah, maybe you can find options to run in and get lethal with an Alexstrasza play. So I like the idea of coin dragon next turn.
Yeah, gone are the days where you can kind of use Control Warrior and Hero Power and wait for your opponent to leave the game.
Yeah,
you have
much.
to actually threaten your opponent to like challenge them, or you have to really hope that your removal and health gain lines up perfectly with their damage, so that way you outlast their resources. But that's just rare. That's rare because you're expecting like you to have a really good outcome and your opponent to have an average outcome. So I feel like in the ideal outcome for Demon Hunter, Warlock's not going to out-heal that, because they just have too much burst over the course of 2 turns.
Right, and we've said in the past that Quest Warlock can feel like a control deck in that it has a lot of those, board control sort of cards, but it's not actually a control deck. It is still a sort of a combo deck, and you have to kind of realize the limits of the controlness of it. I like the Kayn Blood Fury here. Right. Yeah. It's a good amount of satyrs out, so he knows, again, I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Rodan, that he knows that the Crazed Netherwing is not in the hand. Ooh. And try and take advantage of that. Nether Breath, though, that will do a little bit of good for the life total.
Yeah, that guarantees a board clear now because he has Nether Breath and Dark Skies. He does have to tap, so that way he keeps up in the card account. Otherwise, if he Dark Skies first to get the 8 damage, it's not guaranteed that he'll be able to clean it off with Nether Breath.
Life tap into a Mortal Coil.
It's even nicer.
Yeah.
He could actually just Mortal Coil this once instead of playing Dark Skies, because Dark Skies will kill everything. So by doing this, he actually has optimized 1 extra card draw, finds Abyssal Summoner, uses his mana perfectly. This is a great turn.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. I think that Mortal Coil play is something that a lot of people would have missed. Maybe not any people in Grandmasters, but a lot of players in general. Empanizado showing how well he can play this deck, prioritizing getting that 1 extra card. lnguagehackr now in the position of having to rebuild the board. He's got some good tools for it, though, in Glavebound Adept.
Yeah, Battle Fiend definitely is coming out this turn. I would say Glavebound Adept has to come out this turn as well, just because you want to threaten a 2-turn lethal.
Yeah, you think so.
The question is, how much do you want to extend beyond that? And, I think that lnguagehackr says, this is my window, because if I take too long, Warlock will be able to find a way to recover.
Yep. No twisting Nether. Oh, but the plot twist could draw into some removal here. Another Keldon would be possible if he throws it in the deck with the plot twist, gets it again. Also, I suppose, Dark Skies wouldn't quite do it.
So if he plot twists, he should be finishing his quest.
I think so, yeah.
No guarantee, obviously, of what he ends up tapping into. And then the problem is, he still shuffles cards like the coin in. So, we've actually seen that exact scenario end up hurting lnguagehackr in the previous game, although it didn't cost him anything.
Shuffling the coin feels really bad, but I don't know really how you live otherwise. He's going to tap.
Yep.
All right.
And this is a good spot.
Yeah, why not use the coin?
When he sees this is an act of desperation.
Yep. I like the use of the coin there, too, just to make sure you don't, redraw it at a later time. Gives himself 6 mana to use, but not a lot of time. All right,
huge.
Mother.
Yep. Oh, my God.
Wow.
What on earth?
Wing.
Should go ahead and hero power. The biggest limitation is time, actually, right now. He needs to just go ahead and go for it.
Yeah, okay. It's going to gain a lot of health here. Get some Mortal Coil value as well.
Okay. He's not even going to hero power because he'd rather just go for the guaranteed clear.
I think that's smart. I think you're still at risk for death in some fringe cases if you don't do that.
Oof.
Huh.
And that big of a life gain is tough to come back from. 4 health from the Aranosi Broodmother, 8 from the Nether Breath.
I think the other kind of rough thing for lnguagehackr right now, you can see him shaking his head, is that he's not drawing into any hand refill like Skull of Gul'dan or even something like a Chaos Strike just to get a card. Just gonna try to push as much damage as he can here. That is rough, though.
Yeah, this is a tough position, and now Empanizado, as long as he is able to just weather this final storm, which I wonder if Dark Skies is good enough. Let's see.
Well, he'd be doing 6, and there's a lot more than that on the board right now. There's, 11 health on the board.
He does
But
have
he's
Rain
got-
of Fire.
He's got Morag Artificer, too, so... I don't know why I missed
Right,
that the first time, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Rain of Fire Dark Skies is a guaranteed clear, and then you can just
Yeah.
play Arnosi Broodmother. And with Kane already used, it makes me feel like that might be the line. Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's even better, actually.
Yeah, that definitely works. It's going to be a little bit smaller because you're going to have to use the removal, but still, that feels pretty
Wow.
good.
Actually, that's such a big deal because that actually makes it difficult for Language Hacker to push through if he draws a Warglaze next turn.
Yeah.
So, in Language Hacker's mind, he actually specifically needs to draw Metamorphosis, which he does.
Huh, okay. So,
It's huge.
opportunity here at least. But there's so much healing in your opponent's deck, though, you know? I mean, sure, you could do 5 and bring them down to, like, 7 health, but who's to say they don't just get that back next turn, you know?
Right. Not to mention the threat of dying with an 11 showing on the board. Your opponent just has to
Right.
play Malagos Soulfire and you're dead.
Yep.
So
Or-
it might be a Metamorphosis clear, but the question is, how would you go about it to set up 2-turn lethal? If you draw Warglaze of Azzinoth, next turn you'll Metamorphosize for 5, and then you get the weapon for 3, plus the Twin Slice hero power is an extra 2. That still makes you short to kill your opponent.
Yeah, you're definitely not finding enough damage that way. I think Language Hacker is going to be in a bit of trouble. Alex Strasza Soulfire would be
Right.
a kill 2 for Empanizado, if everything on the board lives, of course.
So from Language Hacker's perspective, if he knew the hand that Empanizado had, he'd actually just go Metamorphosis to the face. There's actually no other play. And is he going to go for it? I think he is.
I think maybe that's your only
Yes.
chance of winning
Yes.
here. It's
So-
hard to disagree with.
And it's the right play.
Yeah.
That's a very hard read to make instead of just playing defensively. And Empanizado does not have Alex Strasza. He has the hero power for it. Or he has to go for a Dragon Queen Alex Strasza and maybe hope that that can bail him out, but there's very few things that could.
I mean, Dragon Queen Alex Strasza, you know, would set up like a lethal the next turn, which he probably already has anyway, but
So many.
I don't know.
There's also another option, which is, with Metamorphosis, your opponent still doesn't have enough damage to kill you.
that is true. Oh, there we go. That's that should be it, right?
No, I think he's
11.
So he has to actually
Oh,
do
you're
this. So Arnosi Brute, Language Hacker says, okay, he sees the Crimson Sigil Runner. He still needs
Oh.
extra help, but this second taunt has actually locked out a couple of other things that can help Language Hacker. He needs specifically a another Glaive-bound Adept. He's a 1 in 5 right now.
Yeah.
Or an Altruist. Oh, no.
He's got a couple small options. Twin Slice is not going to do it.
Yeah.
And with only 4 cards left in the deck, that is actually a really, really rough situation because he actually had a pretty good chance to draw lethal there.
He had a pretty good chance, and this is actually a reason why people want to play cards like Chaos Strike and Spectral Sight. Those are cards that constantly rotate in and out of a lot of Demon Hunter deck lists for cards like Spectral Watcher, or if you want to tech even more for other classes. Some people run double I-Beam, double Frozen Shadow Weaver, and whatnot. The second Spectral Sight that Shao T has been trying to really push forward in some of his deck lists have been really good for these kind of scenarios, which is like in the late game where you don't have an opportunity to spend your mana, as you were talking about, Dota.
Yeah.
You don't gas out nearly as much, and you can really capitalize on that extra resources.
Yeah, it's when you're looking at these Tempo Demon Hunter lists, it seems like you're always walking that line between being, putting in a bunch of tech stuff for like the slower matchups, but also leaving enough in there to be able to be a tempo deck to begin with, right? And I suppose that kind of changes every day a little bit on the ladder, depending on what you're running into. But in a tournament situation like this, where you have to basically choose one deck to play the entire weekend, theoretically, then you're going to run into situations where it's like, all right, now I'm just trying to read like what the most likely brings are going to be, right? And so I don't know. Does it seem a little bit too dangerous to go to sort of like late game heavy in this tournament situation?
It's tricky because late game heavy decks tend to get really outpaced by Demon Hunter right now, or they get comboed out by Warlock. It's a tough spot to be a true control deck right now in Hearthstone, largely because of those two things. And also because the classes that are best equipped at doing that, there's better variants of it. Like, for example, there are control warrior decks out there. Like, you can play a control bomb warrior.
Right.
But it feels like so much better to just play the egg tempo warrior instead.
Yeah. There's like the good old wrench caliber stuff out there, but yeah, it's hard not to bring the warrior deck instead. That is either going to get banned or you're going to pretty much guarantee you get a win with.
Right.
So Druid versus Druid now, our second mirror of the match. Saw the Warlock one earlier, and now we see the Druid one. But unlike the Warlock mirror, these are decks with some differences.
Are you kidding me? Breath of Dreams, and he just mulligans and hits the Ysera. That's so sick.
Nice to have the dragon in the hand starting off.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, LnguageHackr has oh, wow. He just lands the Fungal Fortunes.
All right. Another Soul of the Forest and a Claw.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, no.
Not the end of the world.
Still doesn't feel good, though. All right, Wild Growth.
Okay. This is going to get really explosive super quick. So, Empanizado hits the Breath of Dreams, draws a card, which is really a big deal, by the way. LnguageHackr gets that Wild Growth, but the thing is, Empanizado also has Ramp, and then LnguageHackr has Glowfly Swarm, and then Empanizado has stuff to do as well, like the exotic Mount Seller. Yeah. So this is going to escalate really quickly here.
Definitely will. Wild Growth for Empanizado this turn.
Yep.
And LnguageHackr got the Glowfly Swarm. So the funny thing is we're seeing like this deck hit in kind of two different ways right now. One just being able to make that big board early on, another one being able to ramp really fast early on. Breath of Dreams again.
Yeah, but in a way, LnguageHackr's happy to see that because he's not spending his mana removing. Like, he didn't go for, you know, the Mount Seller and then a bunch of cheap free spells.
Sure.
He didn't play a lot of, like, Actually, he didn't even clear off more than just one. Actually, he cleared off two of these.
Yeah, he had to use a Moonfire to do it. So the Mount Seller is suddenly less effective. But I guess with that hand size and that mana already in the game, you're worried about big lethal combos.
Right.
All right. I think Soul of the Forest is reasonable here.
I do also like an Iron Bark here. I know that Iron Bark becomes free next turn. But you get the damage now, and it also just makes your board sturdier, which is harder for Empanizado to remove. Druid isn't a class that actually has a lot of good AoE options, especially this Dragon Ramp variant of Spell Druid.
Dude, like, that would not be a sentence you could have said, like, a year ago. It would be like, what about Swipe? What about Starfire? There's tons of stuff. It's just not in this deck now.
Yeah. And LnguageHackr not happy to see that Ysera, and also he's going to see that Iron Bark.
Yep.
Very problematic.
Yep.
Because he has to get through, so now it's not even like a Savage Roar top deck lethal.
Finds another Bog Beam.
Okay. It's really not the end of the world here, though, for LnguageHackr, because he gets to get his Overflow off first. And then he has two Bog Beams.
Let's see. 6 plus 3, 9 plus... So he's got just enough to kill the Ysera with the two Bog Beams and everything on the board. Is that right?
Yeah, that makes me feel like he's incentivized to actually not Overflow this turn, instead to double Bog Beam, trade, and then Soul the Forest afterwards.
That's what I was kind of thinking is if you do that and then you just make sure your Treants can come back again. But he is going to opt for the Overflow.
Yeah, if he picks up like another Mount Seller, it just becomes so much better what his hand does, rather.
True. Does it feel like you're opening yourself up to too much risk here by leaving this board without the Death Rattle to bring everybody back again?
Sort of. You anticipate your opponent to actually be drawing cards next turn, not necessarily clearing the board, because they just played the Ysera, so you think that they're just going to try to draw a card. That's the one.
Sure. All right, so he manages to save the Death Rattle on one of these at least by using Claw.
I like this as well because he knows if Overflow gets played, then Empanizado will heal him.
Yep.
Dragon gets summoned right off the top. It's a Deathwing. Oh my goodness.
What's another one? All right.
Holy cow.
That's scary as well.
All right.
Well,
If he just draws another portal, this might be it.
so much damage. Iron Bark on that Deathwing as well. Oh, man. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just put on the Twin Tyrant instead. That's a little bit smaller of a dragon.
Right.
That's a large dragon, but it's in your hand. Huh. Interesting.
I mean, I like this Iron Bark here.
Yeah.
I actually think if I'm Empanizado, I might just draw again with the Rising Winds just to see if I can get even more board presence. And then from there, clear off the board with Iron Bark and Bog Beam.
Yeah, totally. Why not press your advantage right now?
Right.
You know your opponent is not really going to have a way to handle all of this. So why not, just do a little bit of a win more play,
Yeah, I mean, it's not even necessarily just a question of whether or not you should or shouldn't. It actually sets up 2-turn lethal by doing that because you have Alex Straza in hand. You set your opponent down to 15, and you just have to hit with Deathwing plus another minion.
That's true, yeah.
So I would taunt up the Twin Tyrant just to make it difficult for LnguageHackr to get through.
Right.
And then
reserve that 12 damage.
He ends up saving this Bog Beam so that he could chew through a taunt. But there's not going to be any taunt here. LnguageHackr probably has the Fungal Fortunes here. But what could he really even draw out of that Fungal Fortunes that would bail him out of this scenario? And there's not many.
At this point, you're looking at using things like Savage Roar for board clear, which means you're not going to have it to try to win the game with. And maybe with Ysera Unleashed, you can find some dragons to kind of create your own board like the one you're facing. But even if he does, use like a Savage Roar or draws a little bit more damage from Fungal Fortunes, can you even really clear this enough? We have to get through 25 health in just the Taunt and the Deathwing.
I mean, ideally, yes, but you probably have to just start compromising certain things. You say, okay, well, let's just forget about clearing Deathwing. Can we just even get past his Twin Tyrant reliably?
Yeah. Soul the Forest, okay. So you're doing what you can to preserve that board and do as much clearing as you can.
Yeah. He does actually refill his board in terms of the size, but it's kind of like what you're saying. It doesn't feel good.
No. Not really. And you still leave that 12-12 out there, so it's 14 damage.
Plus the hero power, so he's dead.
Should
GG.
be, yeah. Alex Straza coming down probably for Empanizado. Let's see. Bring it to 15, so 13 needs 3 more damage from hand.
He's just got the Innervate hero power here.
Right.
So that's going to do it for game number 3. LnguageHackr already concedes. Didn't even have to concede it, even though maybe he was a little bit faster than us in the spectator client. But yeah, Empanizado up 2-1 in position to advance to play Eddie in the upper bracket.
Yeah, the Druid getting a win in the mirror. It's been some kind of interesting mirror matchups today with the Warlock and the Druid, but now Empanizado only needs a win with Demon Hunter, and just saying that kind of makes Empanizado sound a little bit favored for this one, because you basically get 2 more chances to get a win with your Demon Hunter against another Demon Hunter and against a Druid. So it's definitely looking like it's going Empanizado's way. You never know what's going to happen, but LnguageHackr going to try to get this win with the Druid. You got to do it at some point, and then go down to the Demon Hunter mirror. We'll see if he can come back here.
Yep, so, Druid versus Demon Hunter is a tough matchup. This is probably what LnguageHackr was most afraid of. I think it's the most polarized matchup, just because I think Demon Hunter is way too fast for the Druid in the early game.
Seems
Druid
that
really
way, yeah.
can't keep up. And it actually is not necessarily just because of the threat of certain cards like Cedar Overseer and Battlefiend. I think it's because of cards like Beaming Sidekick. If you land Battlefiend and Beaming Sidekick, that alone pressures sometimes the Druids so much that they can't really respond to it unless they have 2 cards of removal.
Right, because it's not like the good old days when Druid always has swipe. Sometimes they've got Starfire. You're kind of missing some of that removal that can deal with those higher health minions. So Beaming Sidekick, although he's he's helping demons, which I don't know if he's happy about doing that. I mean, I guess maybe he's helping demon hunters hunt demons. I mean, still, his parents have got to be a little bit worried. But either way, it's good for the demon hunter in the matchup.
Yeah, it would have been much easier if the beaming sidekick just, was a doctor or a lawyer like all the other cool beaming families have raised their successful children to do.
Why'd you have to go off with the demon hunter? Could have chose a safer profession, like a cheese seller in Stormwind or something, you know?
Hey,
yeah.
I got you, friend.
No, leading the charge is the beaming sidekick, actually.
Yeah, having board presence is sometimes just good enough. Language Hacker can immediately think about if he wants to leave this up or he wants to claw. He could actually do both and just or he could split the difference and just wait and react if his opponent chooses to play another beaming sidekick.
Right.
I think that he does have Bog Beam in hand, so he wouldn't be wrong for using Claw here just to get that 1 damage off the board, but he could afford to wait for sure.
Props to this beaming sidekick, though. I mean, not many youths in Azeroth would really have the bravery to take on Malfurion Stormrage 1v1. I appreciate that.
That's right. You gotta shoot your shot, man.
That's right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Illidan Stormrage.
Well, I mean, you got the Illidan versus Malfurion.
That is true.
Matchup.
That is true.
It's very
Battle of the Brothers there.
And it seems like Language Hacker is just never meant to have Mount Seller in his hand.
Guess
He's
not.
discarding it through Fungal Fortunes.
Seriously.
Ooh, big draw here for Language Hacker.
That is a really nice draw for turn 3. Yeah, you establish a larger minion on the board. You freeze the Druid. You protect your beaming sidekick from things like the Deadly Claw.
Yeah, I think Language Hacker still probably ends up Bog Beaming this because he's not exactly ramping into anything.
Sure, why not?
So I mean, a lot of people would just be like, Wild Growth, and I'll Bog Beam afterwards so I can get the Mana Crystal in, but don't take that 4 damage if you don't have to.
Yeah, I think it's worth.
Speaking of just putting out damage, would you ever just throw the Altruist here and deal 4 damage?
I feel like this is a conversation that comes up with Demon Hunter all the time. Like when you have Twin Slice and Altruist in your hand, do you do that exact thing? Do you just push the damage, put out Altruist? I don't know. It seems
visually
so
indicating
risky.
that it would look cool because you have the Twin Slices on both ends. You have the Altruist at center. Wow.
It's a hand tailor made for that, but that play is I think so seldom good, especially when there's going to be a bunch of perhaps 2 health minions on the board later. Like you want to be able to save that Altruist to handle the Glowfly turns, Soul the Forest or not,
Right. Language Hacker has Wild Growth on his mind, but he did pick up Fungal Fortunes, and I think that does complicate it just a little bit more. Because he could he discover ramp if he overgrowths? He can.
I mean, I kind of like the Wild Growth here right now because I feel like Language Hacker is thinking forward to being like, all right, how can I get my Ysera Unleashed out as fast as possible and then use a bit of draw to overwhelm the Demon Hunter with high health minions,
Yeah, Claw here is really efficient, but I think Fungal Fortunes has to wait. The only thing about this Wild Growth play is he still can't play Ysera next to him. That's the only thing about it.
Yeah, it'll be a couple turns.
Okay. So this is a setup turn here for Empanizado, and he has 2 choices. I know it might sound ridiculous to just play Metamorphosis on 5. It would be the play if he didn't have this Warglaives, and I think Warglaives is pretty superior because you already know that Language Hacker doesn't have an Ooze in his deck.
Right.
But, there is sometimes merit to evaluate if you want a Metamorphosis on 5. It's just that he doesn't have that kill potential just yet.
Well, I think the other thing too is that you want the Warglaives out there because if you Metamorphosis and then on turn 6 you would have needed the Warglaives plus the hero power to clear some 4 health minions, You're gonna wish you would have played the Warglaives, so it's probably the smarter play, and that's who he's going with.
Yeah, super slow. I think Language Hacker might anticipate a Skull of Gul'dan the next turn.
Yeah, certainly could be. depending on what Empanizado draws, of course. And it's not going to be a 0-mana spell because he's already got 2 Twin Slices in the hand. But as a Druid, I suppose you're always wondering about that going into turn 6 against a Demon Hunter. Glowfly Swarm just seems so risky right here, doesn't it?
It does, because your opponent's been holding so many cards and passing for a while, so it makes me think so. I think I'd rather just draw cards, because you still, again, have a chance to hit Overgrowth, which would be huge.
True. Overgrowth would mean he'd get to play his Air Unleash next turn, right? Because he'd have 8 and then another Mana Crystal on the next turn.
Yes.
Yeah. Would have been nice. Didn't find it, though. Found an Overflow.
Yeah, the Overflow will be useful, will be actually very useful, because he has the Ysera Unleashed played next turn. And then Empanizado, I mean, he's just going to start gearing up for it.
Yep.
Talking about how Metamorphosis just starts to really get to that point, and now Language Hacker kind of knows exactly what's Empanizado's mind, which is, I'm going to combo this guy out of the game.
Well,
from Language Hacker's perspective, all he has to do is race his opponent here.
I think his Air Unleash is the right play here. Seems like Language Hacker does too. You know, again, you just have to do whatever you can to fill that board with minions that the Demon Hunter can't deal with. Empanizado has the Altruist, the Outcast, and a lot of cards to use with that.
Right.
There's a lot of demons that have more than 4 or 5 health. You know, it can be hard even for the Altruist to handle.
Yeah, it's a good read. Empanizado didn't have the Skull either. And if your opponent's like passing turns 2, 4, and essentially 6 by playing Metamorphosis, it feels very likely that Empanizado has a Altruist hand. So if he went for a Glowfly Swarm Soul of the Forest, I think it would have been ugly.
Right. Would have been cleared pretty easily by the Demon Hunter. But what's the play here? You know, there's a 4/12 on the other side, but that's a lot of resources dedicated to clearing that, and it's only 4 damage. Can you push enough to face here to make it worth it? Oh, Skull of Gul'dan not Outcast, though?
Poor Warlock.
Oh boy, he's a poor, well, not a poor Warlock, he's a poor Demon Hunter.
Yes.
Not getting the discount. 2 of them were 1 mana anyway, but still. This is rough.
It's very rough, and this is not looking good. Go ahead and see how much damage that can still come out here, but...
Uh-oh, here come the dragons. All right, not bad.
Just needs to find 1 Iron Bark, though. Language Hacker has... He needs to make hand space here. So Innervate. Is it a Moonfire as well? Sure.
Okay. Yep, just gonna overflow. A little bit of healing, a lot of card draw. See what Dream Portals he can pick up. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. 3 portals off the top.
Wow, alright. That is a board that is nearly impossible for a Demon Hunter to deal with, Altruist or not.
Finds an Iron Bark as well.
Yeah.
And with that Savage Roar, it just means that even if Empanizado is able to get past this through Kane or clear off some of it, he can't clear off all of it.
And you can't really kill either.
Yeah, especially if he uses Crystal Power to heal himself, which I think he's entertaining the idea of.
I think that'd be fine, just to guarantee yourself survival. It's unlikely anyway. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine too. You never know when you're going to grab the Mountain Cellar and need to refill your board. Might as well save the Crystal Power. Center Overseer.
So there's just a lot of damage coming in this turn. There's 4 damage, and Language Hacker knows. 4 damage through the Twin Slices, 5 from the Umbra Wing, 6 through the Sightless Watcher, which actually does clear off a couple of these dragons. Varanus and I believe the Steel Lord will just fall down here.
Quite a few of them, yeah.
But he's still like short, and he would also be committing all of his mana to the point where he can't actually use his Metamorphosis hero power. So if he does end up playing the... Oh wait, also Umbra Wing overrides his Warglaive, which is bad. So he's actually kind of stuck here. He needed one extra cheap card. Like if this was the Battle Fiend on the end or the Beaming Sidekick, he'd be in a much better spot. This is still pretty awful here.
Yeah.
Gosh, look at this. It's an
Definitely
Umbra
is.
Wing to attack again.
Spectral Watcher at least makes him able to find maybe a Skull Gul'dan or something. There's a Kane Blood Fury, okay.
Yeah, but he's just dead, right?
Uh,
Kills this dragon.
Yeah.
Goes down to 6 life. Savage Roar just kills him.
Definitely very, very dead. 10 damage on the board, a lot more in the hand. And Language Hacker is going to tie up the series.
Yeah, Druid gets the win in a matchup that's generally very unfavored for the Druid, but you know, a combination of awkward draws plus very nice curve there from Language Hacker, and make sure just to understand what he needs to do, which is get that Ysera and draw cards, and he's able to blow out that Demon Hunter.
Yeah, so that leaves us with a Demon Hunter mirror now, and there are a couple little differences between these decks as I take a look at them. Probably the big one is the Crimson Sigil Runner in the deck of Language Hacker. So Language Hacker's Demon Hunter deck geared a little bit more towards the early game, and that can sometimes make the difference. It really depends on the draws, right, too, but things like the Crimson Sigil Runner can present that, you know, slightly annoying 1/1 threat, but then also kind of keep your hand full and maybe help you get that card advantage over your Demon Hunter mirror opponent.
And if you look at kind of how this Demon Hunter mirror is going to shape, there's a couple of differences in their deck list. We have the One Eye Beam, for example, but the 2 Sightless Watchers, I think, are the most important things to consider, as well as the Vulpera's Scoundrels. Neither of those cards are in Language Hacker's deck, because he prefers to play the Crimson Sigil Runner's Spectral Sight list. So we'll see who wins this Clash of Ideologies. Oh, wow. Empanizado throws away the Frozen Shadow Weaver in the mirror, which, I mean, that's definitely an understandable thing when you look at your curve and you want to have early game board presence. I tend to think Frozen Shadow Weaver, especially on the coin, is one of the best cards you can have in this matchup. So I'm curious what Empanizado thinks, because, I mean, you can see Language Hacker, he kept Frozen Shadow Weaver. He kept his whole hand, actually.
Yeah. I totally agree with the Frozen Shadow Weaver. When I'm going to the mirror, it's that and like Warglaves are probably my 2 favorite keeps, just because of the big swings they can create.
Right. Well, either way, Empanizado does have a pretty decent series of opportunities to win the board if he chooses to Umbra Wing and then play that Umbra Wing leading into the Glaive Bound Adept turn. That's where Frozen Shadow Weaver really throws a big wrench into things.
Right. So, will there be a turn 2 play for Language Hacker? No, not really. That's a little bit awkward. You want to be able to establish something, and you kind of just have to hero power here.
Yeah, this is real bad for Language Hacker. Really, really bad. You have only a few options, or few opportunities to climb ahead in this matchup, and turn 2 is usually a pretty impactful one.
Definitely.
But,
that's the turn when you're playing your Battle Fiend and Sidekick, or your Battle Fiend and Attack, or Umber Wing, or something strong.
Yeah, but he does have turn 3 and 4 set. The question becomes, does he have that pivotal turn 5? Turn 5 is also another power spike turn for this class and this matchup in particular.
You just play Umber Wing right here, right? If you're Empanizado, you could coin into like Vulpera's Scoundrel, but this just seems like the easy decision. Get a weapon, get some minions, all good. Your opponent didn't play anything. There's no pressure to rush for Empanizado.
Yes.
All right, well, Language Hacker has option now. He kind of wishes he would have had something like that Blazing Battle Mage last turn, because now something like a Frozen Shadow Weaver isn't all that great. I mean, you're freezing your opponent, I guess, in this case, but you still got a couple 1/1s on the board, which is annoying. You're probably going to lose your minion. And everything else you would theoretically lose, or use rather, just feels inefficient. Do you think you maybe just go Battle Mage Hero Power to kill one of the 1/1s? Guess not. Oh, and the Twin Slice.
Yeah.
Just to clear. They're one of them anyway.
Yeah, he only needs to hold on to one of these slices, so that way he can play the Gravebound Adept on 5 if he draws it. So I think that's totally warranted. Next turn he wants the Frozen Shadow Weaver hero power, and now Empanizado, he can't capitalize off of this Chaos Strike. He has Volpera Scoundrel, and he has to kind of hope that this Volpera Scoundrel gives him something meaningful to play on 4.
Oh no, it's the Skull of Gul'dan choice again. Maybe not as hard of a choice this time, although I do like that I-Beam. Coin I-Beam clears the minion.
Yeah, the I-Beam is tempting because you can play it right now, and then you don't have to worry about board dominance. The really annoying thing is that you hold up your turn 5. Your turn 5 is supposed to be really powerful and impactful.
And where he's got 2 5-cost cards in his hand too, he could kind of have that double impactful turn. But this just puts so much of the onus on the opponent though to regain control of the board, and a 1-1 and a 2-3 in this matchup is pretty significant. I-Beam.
So if I'm Language Hacker and I see my opponent use the coin, it makes me feel like playing this Frozen Shadow Weaver number 2 actually isn't that great, because you're not stopping like a Gravebound Adept or a Warglaze of Azzinoth turn.
Yeah.
Instead, it might actually be best if he develops his Blazing Battle Mage and take it slow by using an I-Beam here. So that way on turn 5, he can use his Warglaze. He could actually freeze so he can stop the Warglaze and the Gravebound Adept.
Yeah, I can see that. Battle Mage, I-Beam, Hero Power to clear the 1-1.
And the reason why I think this might be justified is only because Language Hacker doesn't have a turn 5. Like you just look at his hand right now, and he could play for the 4 cards in his deck that could lead to success, but I do like this I-Beam Battle Mage play. The alternative is just the Hero Power and just play Frozen Shadow Weaver. It's kind of like a halfway play, so you can get board presence.
Yeah, this feels cleaner, I guess. Good ordering where he cleared the 1-1 first to get the most healing benefit out of the I-Beam as well. Back up to 30 and then 2-2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's a reasonable draw, not amazing.
It's good though. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that there's merit to using Chaos Strike in this position as well.
I agree. I mean, you don't have a lot else to spend your mana on this turn. And getting another card in hand for turn 5, turn 6, you draw like a Skull of Gul'dan and maybe set yourself up for that on turn 6. This just feels cleaner too, But yeah, he's not using it though.
I mean, he has Warglaves, so that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to. I just think that there's merit in thinking about it. And I mean, if you look at the way things have panned out here, Empanizado might just have too much substance for Language Hacker. Language Hacker doesn't actually have real meaningful offensive here. He's got decent cards.
Yeah. In any mirror matchup too, keeping cards is the most important thing you can probably do, right? If you don't have to use a card to accomplish something, it's way stronger in the mirror matchup. It's a freeze though, so it does slow down this Warglave's turn.
Wow. Everything doesn't work. And you can see why Frozen Shadow Weaver is kind of important in this matchup.
Oh yeah, it's great. What do you think about, well, yeah, no, he can't. He doesn't have any way to really activate the Gravebound Adept. Everything requires him to attack as in his hand.
So you have to set up this Warglaves and pass.
Why not? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Whoa. Skull of Gul'dan off the top. You can see Language Hacker with a huge sigh of relief. This game was all but over if he didn't draw that card.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
Finds more card draw, which is honestly quite good.
2 mana Warglaves too.
Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't like the best draw ever from Skull of Gul'dan, but
right.
I think maybe the 2 mana Warglaves makes up for it.
He can play everything next turn, right? He can I-Beam, then Sigil Runner, then Spectral Sight, then Warglaves.
And if you draw an Altruist, then you're feeling it really good.
Sure, if you're super good at Hearthstone. Yeah.
If you're the best Hearthstone player, yeah.
Yes.
Then you can draw that card.
You somewhat anticipate, though, like a Satyr Overseer or a Gravebound Adept pop-off turn, and this is... Oh my goodness, this Frozen Shadow Weaver is so nasty.
Seriously.
Just have to play Satyr Overseer, go... you basically just create a bunch of 2/2s, and then you Frozen Shadow Reaver the face. The only debate is whether or not Empanizado wants to do both this turn because he's afraid of an Altruist.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be aware that Altruist is a possibility, but at some point you just need to go for it too, you know? And I feel like going Setter Overseer and Frozen Shadow Weaver isn't super all in, you know? It creates a big board, but you're only using 2 cards to do it, really. You still have the Glavebound Adept, so it seems reasonable.
Hey, I definitely want to play Setter Overseer. That's the only thing that I know for sure. You could actually convince me just Chaos Strike instead, if you don't want to. I just think that the Frozen Shadow Weaver right back means that they can't, like, Glavebound and Depth Tempo, and I like that. And Language Hacker, you can see just, like, how upset he is.
I mean, who can blame him? That's just an enormous switch, and
yeah,
is that possibly lethal?
Nope.
What do you get?
No, it's a Cane.
Okay.
So it was the other 4-mana card, but this is honestly still fine too.
Well, I mean, how much can you clear here? I mean, Cane clears 1, I-Beam clears 1. You get a little bit of health back. You're not dead next turn, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but this costs a lot of resources.
Definitely does.
A lot of resources.
I mean, Language Hacker's face is saying, like, so much more than we ever could this turn. in terms of how he feels about it, but could come out ahead if the draws...
Oh, wow. I was thinking about just setting up Warglaves, playing Cane, and then just, like, setting up for the following turn. It might legitimately be a Skull of Gul'dan so that you could kill him the next turn.
Right? That's what I'm thinking, because you're probably not going to die, even if you leave all this up. But there's a lot of stuff you could draw into that at a discount with 8 mana might mean you can close it out against an opponent with 15 health. He's going for it.
Oh, he finds the Altruist! And a Glavebound Adept! And another Glavebound Adept!
All right,
Holy smokes.
That works. You just got to survive this turn. Is there any way Empanizado can put together something strong? He's got 12 damage on the board. Now he's got 14.
Jeez. I mean, yeah, so that's a lot of damage.
Not enough, though, is it?
No. Language Hacker doesn't actually have lethal the next turn, though. That's the thing. Because unless the next card he draws is Twin Slice, and then he would have lethal. Because he needs to play Altruist for 1. The 2 Glavebound Adepts, so that's 5 mana. The Warglaves, which is 7 mana, and he doesn't have enough to, like, get that Chaos Strike or that Hero Power, so it had to be Twin Slice. Off the top, I think, unless I'm miscounting here and I'm forgetting that each of them deals a damage.
Let's see.
All right, here we go.
He might be a little
bit
short. Yeah, you got to go all in if you're Empanizado. No doubt about that.
The thing is, Language Hacker. Oh, he trades. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
He got the Twin Slice.
I mean, I think that's lethal.
That should be lethal, right? Yeah, because I think he was too short before that. I think he had 13 before that. And now he's got enough. Because the Twin Slices are essentially 2 damage each because they get the Altruist damage and they buff your hero, so... Yeah. This should be...
Yeah, it's very much lethal, especially because he can get the extra damage from the Gravebound Adepts. Language Hacker advances to the winner's bracket finals off of an emotional roller coaster of a series. You can see Empanizado stone cold in his receiving of the bad news, but Language Hacker, it seems like to me that maybe he lost that series just based off this.
Man, that was just like you said, that was an insane, like, that wasn't just a roller coaster of emotion, that was like a theme park of emotion for a Language Hacker, especially in that one. But that's how the Demon Hunter mirrors go, right? Where pretty much every Demon Hunter mirror game you see played feels like it comes down to one player being like, all right, if I draw this one card, then I win, and if I don't, then that's it. And yeah, that's a lot of games of Hearthstone, but still, this mirror in particular, because of the big lethal setups that can occur when you get around 15 health on one player, I feel like we see it more often, which is very exciting for us and traumatizing for whoever's playing the game.
That's right. So Job well done in lnguagehackr, but he's just getting started in his path to becoming a global finalist, a world finalist rather. Eddie versus lnguagehackr, battle between two former teammates on Team Lazarus, is going to be happening as our next match. And then after that, we will have Empanizado versus Firebat. Empanizado is not out yet. He will be playing against James later today. Then our last series will be a match from the relegation bracket. We'll update you more on that later. But for now, quite a fun series to start things off here, Doa.
Seriously, yeah. It's been really fun. I really I've begun to enjoy mirror matchups more and more as time goes on. I used to hate them, but now it's just kind of one of those situations where the tiny little intricacies and card decisions matter, more than ever. So it's fun to watch, fun to play. Glad we got a bunch of them in that series.
Yeah. And so, we're going to be having more of that coming up. As we mentioned, Eddie versus lnguagehackr is going to be happening. And this is a battle between two players who have been some of the most consistent in the Americas for a while. And also, Canada has long been the dominant country in competitive Hearthstone. And, it's kind of fun to see them once again have two Canadian players right now in the winners finals of the group.
Yeah. Eddie, number one player in Division A as well. So kind of getting that bye, making it to this round, and we'll see if he can take out lnguagehackr and move on.
All right. So with that leads us to our next intermission. We're going to take a few minutes, and when we come back, we're going to have the second series of the day here and the final week of Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas.
Hearthstone Grandmasters is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network. T-Mobile,